Hello Year 10, this is Miss Hudson for another White Tower lesson. If we can quickly complete these few revision questions, if you want to pause the video for 1 to 2 minutes just to match up the questions to the answers. Thank you. Okay, so what was the name of the chapel in the White Tower? That was St. John's Chapel. This shows us that it was probably likely that the White Tower was used for residence purposes, as there's a chapel there for people to pray when they need it. But it also demonstrates the importance of religion. Remember, William I believed that he had won the Battle of Hastings because he had God on his side. He had that papal banner from the Pope. And this is another example. He believes perhaps that if he's going to be attacked, that he's going to need some religious intervention. Always good to build a chapel if you want that. B, what is a garderobe? That is a toilet. C, what is the name of the other place that William II lived in when he was in London? That's Westminster Palace, a much nicer residence, much more comfortable to live in than perhaps the White Tower would be, demonstrating that perhaps the White Tower was not a permanent residence or not lived in as much as Westminster Palace. True or false? The White Tower has a banqueting hall, a chamber, and a chapel showing a high status person lived there. That is true. One reason why William built the White Tower was because he needed somewhere to live when in London. So, what was the function of the White Tower? Last lesson we looked at its function as a residence. This week we're going to look at a couple of different functions. So we need to make sure that we are clear on what was the White Tower supposed to do, what was it used for, and how did this change and adapt over time. So this week we are going to consider how the White Tower also acted as a method for defending William's territory and to help him exert his political control. So the first thing is we need to make sure that we know what the words control and defend mean. What I would like you to do in either the box below or I believe on the next slide is just write a quick definition of those two words. So if you could pause the video here for about 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, so sorry. My definition of control would be the power to influence or direct people's behaviour or the course of events. So this is something William hopes to do at home. He knows that he's not that popular. Okay, people were quite happy with, or most people were quite happy with Harold Godwinson. He knows that he's come over and he's not the most popular person. He's taken some land off some people, got rid of some people's houses to build castles, etc. Therefore, he needs to make sure that he has got something which shows that he is in charge and that he is a force to be reckoned with. The second word, defence, well, this is about resisting attack made on something or protect it from harm or danger. So he needs to make sure that he's defending England from harm or danger, especially from possibly the Danish who might still want to come across, attack and invade. So the next slide is looking at these two pictures then. How would you think you would feel if you saw the White Tower as you were an invader from another country sailing up that river towards London and you see this great big stronghold? And also if you saw it as an Englishman who didn't like being ruled by William, would that affect your behaviour in any way? On the next slide there are two headings. If you can write your answers underneath, just to give me a brief idea. So that should take you 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, so as an invader from another country, if you're sailing up the river to this great stronghold, you are going to be made nervous by the fact that there is this huge building, this huge strong stone keep. It is quite intimidating. It might deter you from invading, or it might deter you from attacking, or it might just affect your army. It might make them nervous, which is always a problem. As an Englishman who didn't like being ruled by William, for a few of the reasons that have just been mentioned, it might mean that you're less likely to kind of start a rebellion. You've got to The aim of a rebellion is to take over, obviously, get rid of the current leader. But if you saw strongholds like this and other, obviously, Motte and Bailey castles, you might think it's just not really worth the effort. So there's that idea of it deters people from attacking. So your main task today then is to go through this worksheet, which is 2 sides, and you need to decide whether that piece of information in the box shows that the castle was built for defence, for control, or for both reasons, or for another reason. So defence, control, both reasons, or another reason. So if we do the first one together then, the White Tower's unusually large size meant that each floor could be subdivided, with each subdivision being used for both defence and as a living space. Each floor was divided into 3 major rooms measuring 107 by 199 feet and enclosed by walls up to 15 feet thick. So you could put down that there's evidence here it was used as a living space. I think the main reason though is possibly defence. The idea that those walls were 15 feet thick. Okay, you don't just kind of go to that extra effort just to make it look pretty. This was for a defensive reason. If you had someone using a battering ram or a trebuchet, those thick walls are going to protect you much more. What you need to do is work down the rest of the boxes, deciding which reason the castle was built for. This task should take you about 15 minutes if you want to pause the video here. Okay, to summarise then, the White Tower was built with different functions. As a residence, although it was only used occasionally, William II probably preferring Westminster Palace. For William to defend his land from invaders, especially the Danish. For William to exert his political control over the country. He now ruled, so people needed to follow his rules. They needed to know he was not a person to mess with. And economic reasons. This is more of a byproduct rather than a reason to build the castle. But towns often grew up around castles as they were a well-defended place. They were a safe place. So on the following pages even, there's a couple of paragraphs to write in a quick judgment. If you want to revise the reasons why castles were built again and some of the problems William was facing, there's a BBC bite-sized link at the bottom of this PowerPoint, which you can go to. This might help you very much with your answers. So, first paragraph. It could be argued that the White Tower was built to defend the Normans and their territory. The evidence I have for this is going back to your worksheet and finding which boxes you've put D next to, or possibly both, and picking out a few good pieces of key information. Doesn't have to be every piece, but I'd suggest 3 to 4 pieces. Your first one, for instance, might be that the walls were 15 feet thick. You then need to add some explanation in. The Normans needed to defend their land from. Well, we know it's built for defensive reasons, but why? This is what's going to get you band 3 to band 4. This is going to get you that grade 5 plus, and it's really important we get some explanation in here. As I've just said, if you need some help with this, there is that BBC bite-sized link on the previous slide. The next paragraph then, it could be argued that the White Tower was built to exert control. The evidence I have for this is, again, back to your worksheet, find the examples of control. These might overlap slightly with defence as well. And then you need some explanation about why the Normans needed to control the English population. Okay, why weren't they keen on William I? And then you reach your overall judgment. Overall, I think the main function of the White Tower was to defend the Normans and their territory, or to exert control over the English, or a place for William to live. I think this because. Now, we've done 2 paragraphs here, and we worked on the third one about the residents last week. You are not to say that it was all 3 reasons. We know that because that's what you've written in the body of your essay. This is your conclusion, the bit where you fully explain which you think was the key reason. It was built as a place for William to live. It was built to control the English population. It was built to defend Norman territory. But what do you think was the key reason and why? Why do you think it was more important than other reasons? Again, if you have any issues or any problems, please feel free to email your history teacher, myself, Miss Bartley, or Mr. Brown with any questions you've got. Hope it's all nice and simple for you.